Yeah, hi friends, it's Harpreet Singh today with a new person, a new community member who have been, I think, rising up a lot and inspired a lot of people, especially in city of Manteca. So again, I think we always like to know from our community members what they were doing previously. They have been at an elected office and how what was their experience after that. So thanks for being at this project, so-called for covering Sikh community members. And so can you tell us what was your experience like before and like why you decided to run for an elected office?
Okay, so first of all, hello everyone. My name is Gary Singh. I'm actually a councilman for the city of Manteca. I'd like to thank you, Harpreet, for doing this today, and it's commendable that you're actually doing this to kind of highlight some of our Sikh community leaders and also to let the next generation know, opportunities that they can also have, and hopefully we can lead by example for you guys. So my story really is, I don't come from a political family. I don't come from an area, where I was ever thinking about politics. People that know me from school probably would have never thought I was going to be a politician. I was kind of a bookworm my whole time. So I came here at a very young age. I originally came here when I was 4 years old. My parents are very traditional. I live in a very traditional family. But, education was always important. But for me, the hardest thing was learning English, actually. At a young age, you're only speaking English for the 4 or 5 hours that you're in school, and the rest of the time, you're speaking Punjabi at home with your parents, and they're not very fluent in English, so obviously they're not going to teach you anything. So because of that, I can tell you from my childhood-wise, so I grew up in Tracy, then I went to Lathrop, and I went to elementary school there, and then went to Manteca and went to Sierra High School there. So locally here, I was teased a lot, made fun of a lot as a kid. Even if you look at it, like you, I don't wear a turban, but just because of when we had arrived in the early '80s in that area, nobody knew who Indians were, who Sikhs were. Everybody thought we were Middle Eastern. That was also the time of the first Gulf War. So with President Bush, the senior. So everybody thought I was Saddam Hussein's son, So, I used to get picked on a lot. It was very frustrating those years. There was times where I felt like I don't even want to go to school. And and on top of that, I couldn't speak the language. So, people would make fun of you even more. And then teachers would get frustrated with you, or they didn't really know about ESL or English as a second language as much back then. There would be kids, bullies all the time, and that would do things that are wrong and then just blame it on me, and I would have no way to defend myself. So that's kind of my childhood. It was really interesting. And then my parents, so my dad started in the donut shop business. Back in the days. He used to work for a company called Winchell's, which is like the Krispy Kremes of that day. He left that business, then he went into the convenience store business. So this is all in the '80s. And when he went into the convenience store business, we were very humble beginnings. We lived in an apartment, 1-bedroom apartment. My dad had roommates and partners, so there was like 6 of us living in a 1-bedroom apartment. And it was tough times, and Dad, we didn't really have a lot of money. Dad worked from, he would start the store at 8 in the morning and close at midnight. So he used to work every day, 16 hours a day. And then he used to actually bake at night at a separate place for like
16 hours.
Yeah, about 4 hours there. So it was typically a 20-hour day, 7 days a week. I can tell you as a kid, I never saw my dad because he was always at work. There was times where, we never went to any events, anywhere because we didn't have time. So those were the tough years, but that's where my work ethic comes from. I learned it from my dad. I started working at the convenience store when I was in 3rd grade. So I used to go, I was a little kid, couldn't really reach the shelves or couldn't reach anywhere. I used to use these little milk crates to reach to the top and fill all the shelves. And but you know, those things were kind of twofolds for me. One was it helped me not only learn the business, but it was a way to spend time with my dad, because there was no other way to see him. So the only way I could see him was either to come work with him, right? So we probably broke a few child labor laws, but other than that,
it's fine, I think.
I don't think I'm going to take my dad to court yet, but I do know an attorney. So that's really my childhood was there. Then slowly, as of course I started progressing, I went through high school here in Sierra. After that, I went to UOP in Stockton. Went and I double bachelor's. So I bachelored in business with an emphasis in law and real estate. And then I also did a biochem degree. Surprise, right? We are
Great.
Indian, right?
Great.
And we're supposed to be doctors or engineers.
One leg in medical.
Yeah, so you know, parents wanted me to be in the medical career. I grew up in business my whole life, so I really liked the business, real estate aspect of it. So instead of making one side not feel so good, I decided to do both. So I had no life in college. I did that all in 4 years. Wow. And summer school every summer. So it was a very crazy 4 years. But after we finished, it was actually my junior year. I was sitting there and I actually got offered a job through a real estate firm saying, would you like to come and work for us? Good. And that's when I kind of thought, oh, you know what? Do I really want to go to med school? Do I want to go to dental school or something and be in more debt? Or I can start making money next year, right? So that's kind of how I got into real estate at that point. Once I got into that, then it was really, you know, I've been doing real estate ever since then. So been in the real estate world, then also learned, you know, still ran the family business, so understood the whole business side of it. So the politics part is really interesting, is that, you know, if you listen to me ramble on this whole time, there was no parts of it talking about anything about politics, because politics was never on the radar. Sure. For me, my first little dab into politics was really about 8 years ago, 9 years ago, when I had the opportunity to become a planning commissioner for the city. And at that time, you know, being a real estate background, understanding development, our mayor at that time, which was Willie Weatherford, actually gave me an opportunity to become a planning commissioner. At that time, that's kind of my first, I didn't really know that it was political, actually. I thought it was just another job where I could represent the community. And that's kind of, I think, my starting point really is that I wanted to do something where, hey, I was a little kid in this town, I grew up here, now I'm married and I have little kids, so life's kind of coming full circle. So I'm saying, okay, you know, what kind of town, what kind of city of Manteca am I going to leave for my kids? And, you know, being a planning commissioner, I thought this was perfect. I can help shape what the future growth of Manteca is going to be. And that's kind of how I got started. But of course, once you're in there, when you get into that world, you realize as a planning commission, it's a board of 5 people. Okay. And they actually report whatever we do. We give our whatever we feel the best advice, and we give that to the city council, and the city council makes the final decision. Okay. But at that time, the city council was, I don't want to say old, but you know, there was a big generation gap. You had a lot of people that were very similar. So a lot of things were going through, but people were not understanding. You know, that, hey, out there the world has changed since the 60s and 70s. So there was things that we would do in the planning commission and they would get rejected, or they wouldn't, you know, and realize that really, unfortunately, the power lies up above. Even though we want to do good at our spot, if we don't make change at the top, nothing's going to happen. So
Yeah, because also it's important because your city is in the middle of, I think it's a center for economic
yeah,
development because you have, I think, connectivity to Bay Area, Sacramento,
yeah.
and down south.
Well, if you think about it, if you look at the map of California, we are dead center in the middle of California. You point to the middle of California, and it's going to be Manteca. We literally are at, like you said, the crossroads of this area, right? So there is everything. We got Highway 599 traveling right through this area. You know, you're within an hour away. You are at Oakland Port, the Bay Area with Silicon Valley. You got Sacramento growth.
Sure.
And then you got Amazon going with all freight growth up and down this whole valley.
Sure. Then you have the farming community, I think.
And then you have the pre-existing farming community that also is saying, hey, don't get rid of our farmland.
Yes.
So that balancing act is really crazy. But then also if you look at our community that's grown so much, that first generation that's came in here and became farmers, became business owners, they're very much entrusted into the Central Valley. And I felt that that's what I was going to bring. I was going to be a voice, not just for you know, the overall public, but especially for our community, because I feel like a lot of them spent so much time thinking about what's happening at the motherland or what's happening in India, but they never really thought about, hey, you know, let's talk about what's happening in your own town, your own state, and the laws that are affecting your business. Or things that you're doing every day and your tax base. So, which I don't, you know, necessarily say it's a bad thing because, you know, that first generation really, just like my dad, really had to work hard to create the base. And we can't have them start thinking about politics and all this other stuff because you got to have money to do something, right? So they helped. Yeah, and time. They were all busy working at the store for 20 hours a day. They didn't have time to do that. So they created the base for us. Now I think it's a great opportunity for the following generations to be more involved in our community and take it to the next step. And obviously politics is an avenue, and one thing obviously we're trying to change is that you know, sometimes politics is a bad word, you know, especially in our community and everywhere. And we're trying to say that, you know, just because you're a politician doesn't mean you have to be a bad guy.
Yeah, sure. So I think before we take it to about your election, your first election, so can you provide a little bit insight on, did you do anything, I think, while you were in college or your previous background, which prepared you to, I think, took that decision to run for an election? So did that play any role?
So, you know,
so that because my main purpose by asking this question, so maybe I think one of our kids or youth who are entering college can think about how they can prepare for it. And I think we understand politics is also, I think, one of the important factors about time.
Yeah.
Timing is the important thing.
Yes.
But again, I think still to prepare for it, what they can do, what kind of things they can do in college while, I think, looking at this road.
Yeah, so I think it's just, you know, politics is probably the end of the tunnel kind of thing, but getting there, it just starts very small. So, you know, when you're in high school, even in elementary school, be involved in your community, you know, go help out at a shelter or wherever the opportunity lies, you know, just don't go to school, come home, do your homework, play video games, and go to sleep, right? There is actually a lot more stuff going on out there. And I think this is where you can start out young, and, you know, maybe it's your Salvation Army, maybe it's, you know, the local sororities, or I'm sorry, with the local service clubs within town, Kiwanis or Rotary, or, you know, there's so many opportunities everywhere you go. Even in the city, we have boards and commissions that we have a youth committee that kids can sit on and actually, you know, help shape future. I think that's the biggest thing, is get involved. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to lead to politics, but at least it will shape you into the person you are. You will understand what public speaking is. You'll understand how policies are made. So things that are happening around you, you'll kind of figure out how is that happening. So yeah, definitely, I think from a local, from an early age, I think you could definitely get involved within your own school. If there's little committees or some things you can get involved in. It doesn't necessarily have to be a political thing. You can run for class president and vice president and treasurer, but it could be other committees or anytime you can donate your time. And I think that's really the base, is that us at a local level, we are donating. It's a community service. People think politicians make all this money, but that's not true at the local level. So that's why you have to have that stronghold and the time, because you're not going to get rich being a local politician. And the reason I say that is that our monthly salary is $600.
Wow.
So the amount
That's
of
also
time,
important to know.
yeah. So the amount of time that I spend doing that, I'm running negative every month. So it's definitely not for the money at the local level.
And can you also tell the salary of a mayor?
It's the same.
Okay.
So $600 divided by 30 days. It's it's nothing. Okay. So you better have something else. You better have a day job. That's different than running for Congress, or as you go higher up, obviously they make money. But at a local level, we do not. But that's where kids can get involved in their schools. I think once you go to college, same thing. I think the public speaking aspects, or where you're doing presentations. But also, I think what helped me was that because I double major, I had a really wide spectrum of general knowledge on a lot of different things. You'd be amazed that, hey, he's a real estate guy, he's a business guy. Well, what is he doing with a biology degree? Or, how does he even use that? But it'd be really interesting, because I was using it not too long ago so our city, we have a solid waste department. We have our treatment plant that takes all of our, sewer water from.
I think every city has that.
Yes. So and guess what? When all that sewer water goes into the treatment plant, it's a biological process of how you break down all of those things. And actually, the city goes through a tertiary process of cleaning our water, and where it's pretty much close to being drinkable. And that's what they unleash into the river. It's actually clean water taken from our sewers. So that process involves anaerobics and all of these different microbes. And so then, when I was there doing the tour and I was talking to the person, all this stuff was coming back to me, and I started having a real conversation on a biological level. And they're not used to having a councilman talk to them about biology.
Yeah, but I think it's always good to know, because you're looking at these pieces of documents which are just saying bunch of stuff.
Yeah, and to the normal person, they're like, okay, sounds great.
Yeah, sounds great. If I think your public, it would not be public works department, but some department who is taking care of your sewer district.
It's public
those
works.
People, and they are just providing you, and if you don't understand, you just say, okay, it's fine, I think whatever you're doing. So you don't have, I think, any insight, or you cannot, I think, properly supervise them. Which is your job.
So definitely, I think the general knowledge of getting a little good aspect of everything really helps. Not in a political career, but any different career that you chose, or anything in the public sector, because it makes you more valuable as a person.
Sure. So I think moving fast forward, it's your election time, or you are making a decision. So can you provide us a little bit of insight when you took this decision, and who were the people who just encourage you, and provide the journey from that decision to the election day? For the first time when I ran? Yes. Okay. So again, when it comes to elections, it is a all hands on deck. When I ran the first time, I was known, but not that well known. When the general public, I was the youngest guy that was running at that point. To this day, I'm still the youngest person elected.
So they weren't used to
And
seeing.
only the first one from the Sikh community.
Yeah,
and also Indian community.
first Sikh Indian community minority pretty much elected, but also the youngest guy elected, and still is the youngest one on the council today. That was just a completely different way, and our town is it's an older town, and you know, to try to get individuals to say that this kid can do something was a big step to take. But before you do any of that, I think the biggest thing you got to remember is that it takes a lot of time, You are going to have a lot of sleepless nights. You are not probably even going to make it home every day. So that's the big commitment. And that commitment really started before I decided on anything. I sat with my family, my wife. My kids were young, so obviously they didn't understand what Dad was doing at that time. And my parents, and really sat and said, okay, if we're gonna do this, I really need you guys on board, because if you're not on board, it's not gonna happen. Because it's just, you can have the help, but end of the day, you need the family support to do any of it. And your wife especially, because there's gonna be many days that you're not gonna come home until very late. And for me, and it's an issue sometimes, is that, you know, community comes first. When everybody's asking, I come, and sometimes because of that, you know, family kind of takes the back seat. But I always try to help balance that with family also. I've gotten better, but that's the issue, is that, you know, there's times when I won't see my kids because they'll be sleeping by the time I get home. Or when I do leave, they're still sleeping, or they're going to school. So it's just trying to find those times in between, which could put a lot of stress on your family life. So definitely, it starts with the family. You get them on board, then you create your core team. So, you know, I'm kind of going to take you through the steps of running an election.
Because I think it's really important.
Yeah, everybody, I think.
Because any youth who is thinking to run, or like any community member, maybe in any other city or state.
Yeah, definitely.
As we are,
it's all feasible.
Posting it.
Yes.
So I think it would be good to run through that process, or like how you took that process.
Yes. So I'll tell you this though: before you run for any public office, I think because I was a planning commissioner, that did wonders for me. Please get involved in some board, some commission in your city before you decide that you're just going to suddenly just go straight from nobody to running for a council seat, elected position. I think that's very tough sale, because I also feel now that I am a councilman, if somebody's running who doesn't really know how to do the job, what the job entails, they're not doing themselves a justice, and they're not doing the public justice, even if they do win, because it goes fast. Once you're there, you're not going to have a lot of people teaching you how to read pages and pages of this stuff and understand it. So if you have some kind of understanding of how it works, you know, a lot of people always believe that government has all this limited pot of money and we can use it for whatever we want. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way.
Choices.
Yeah, we just throw it over here, throw it over there, no problem. No, it's all allocated. It's just because this one count over here has a lot of money and this one needs money, we can't just take it from there and shift it over there.
Millions of dollars.
Yeah, I'm telling you, you're talking about millions, and I serve on the COG board, and we're talking about billions. So when we're looking at that, I can't just take this money and throw it over here because this account needs more money now. No, it's allocated for that, and I have to figure out how to make that one whole. So it's budgeting. Going back to your previous question also, is that with the school thing, you know, financing, budgeting is very important. If you can learn that, usually us Indians are very good at financing and budgeting, so I think we fall right into place with this. So anyways, the journey really started with, I took a core group of people that believed in me and created a committee. Within that committee, you know, we kind of delegated different jobs, which entailed anywhere from marketing, figuring out who your voters are, getting out there and actually registering people to vote. You know, sometimes that's one of the loose ends with our community is that We're very good. We're involved out there. We're involved in our gurdwaras like crazy. But the issue is that when it comes to politics in this side, we're great in numbers, but we never vote. And because we don't vote, we don't have numbers.
And can you provide like a little bit snapshot of, I think, 2 communities we have in Stanislaus County, San Joaquin. So what are their turnout?
Yeah, so looking at us, I looked at the latest numbers in Manteca. There's 1,400 households in the city of Manteca that are from Middle Eastern or Indian descent that are voters. And so can you imagine a typical household is probably 3 to 4 people, right? And I mean, you're now approaching 5,000 people if everybody voted. When I won the election the first time, total votes I got were 10,200.
And that was a record.
Yeah, and that was the record for the city. They've never gotten that high. So usually it's about 8. So if one community has 5,000 votes, can you imagine the power of those 5,000 votes? Well, the issue is this, though. Out of those 5,000 votes, maybe 15%, 20% actually come to vote.
Wow. Even after mailing ballot option.
And yeah, mailing ballots, they get them. You can't get any easier.
Yeah.
And they throw them away. Because, and this is the problem. A lot of times in our community, they say, my vote doesn't matter. My voice doesn't matter. We kind of start thinking about politics here and politics in India. Or I used to have people tell me, oh, he's going to win. No, it doesn't matter. Why? We don't need to vote. He looks good. Well, no, you still need to vote for the guy if he's going to have a chance.
Yeah.
So yeah, the community is big.
And at least I think I like to praise our first generation because they have seen the power of voting in India. Because in India, we don't have mail-in ballot options.
No.
It's every person goes at the polls on the election day.
Lines it up and starts.
And usually you have 70% voting turnout.
Yeah. That's unheard of in here.
So I think you need to make sure that you have fought for, I think, your citizenship for a number of years.
Yeah.
And you cannot, I think, throw that in the dustbin.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that, a lot of people obviously, especially the first generation, they got their citizenship and that was for them to have free reign to go back to India or invite their relatives, right? But they're forgetting the biggest thing, power that citizenship gives them, which is the right to vote. In America, people fought for years and years to get that right. And we have that right, and you have real power because you can make true change here in this country by voting. And I encourage not only our adults, but the next generation, our kids. If you're in high school and you're getting to that 18 year, not only I understand that you can't vote until you get to that age, but before then, because you understand the power of the vote, you can encourage your parents to be the voice and say, hey, you need to vote. And I'm not saying, hey, today I'm an Indian guy, so yeah, let's vote for the Indian guy. No, that's not true. Do your homework. Educate yourself. You don't know how many times I see people that sit there and tell me they voted for the guy because the name just looked good. Or his name was the first one on the ballot. And they knew nothing about him.
I think number of votes, I don't know, there is some study or not, but I think
it's a 10% bump. If you're the first 2 on the ballot, that's a lot. When you have a 20 to 25% turnout, that's a great bump, right? So that's the power. So anyways, so once you kind of start that whole aspect of getting out there, the biggest thing that I would say that helped me get elected was that, first of all, on a city level, we are very nonpartisan. So there's no Democrat, Republican. I represent the community. I don't represent a party. So I think that's another thing that really fills everybody because we try to do what's right for our people and not what's right for a party or lines or anything, or what's happening at the national level. We try to stay away from that. So the other aspect is then me and my wife and our team of people, we walked. We knocked on doors. it's really going, I understand we're in the world of social media, and I was a big social media guy. I kind of brought social media to the city. I was the first one to kind of put a candidacy on social media in town. But it's still really going back to the grassroots of we walked and knocked on doors. Me and my wife personally have probably knocked on about 3,000 doors in this town. Every day we just pick a neighborhood and we just go all the way through, and it didn't matter what party line they were, who they were. We went and knocked in, and you get all kinds. I mean, we got people, and you got to get used to rejection too, if that's the other thing. You'll get people that are saying, yes, no problem, we love it. And then there'll be people saying, you'll get racist remarks. You'll get people that tell you, we don't vote for your kind. Oh, okay. And they would slam the door on your face. Wow. And I used to walk back and go to the next house. My wife didn't take it so easily. She was wanting, go choke them, but I had to keep her in the back. Sure. But, you get everything. It's still out there. But, I've grown up with that. So I already understood. I'm kind of just, flies right over me.
So now you have become thick politician.
I'm a very thick-skinned when it comes to that, right? I'm used to people complaining. Okay. So I think the walking piece, the social medias, really looking at how I think the public doesn't want to see you as a politician. The public wants to see themselves in you. Yeah. So how can you relate yourself to the general public without trying to be this upper echelon politician, because then it looks very fake. You just be true to yourself and represent what you represent, and I think the public will see it through. And if not, doesn't mean that it's over. There's always other things you can be doing.
Sure, I think so. So you have to plan these things, and you have to execute, and then hope for the best.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, there's nothing you can do more. It's in the public's hands. They have the power to vote. You can't vote for them. So at that point, the best thing you can do is make sure you've done everything you can. That way you don't feel like you left something out. And it takes a lot of planning. I mean, before I ran, I was a year and a half before where I started thinking about it.
Good. I think so. You have provided good insights, and I think if anybody is thinking about, running for an office in a city, probably I think in California or anywhere, because I think those activities remains the same.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, honestly, anywhere you're running, it could be anywhere from a local PTC club in your child's school, or it could be the school board, city council, mayor, and school and supervisor, county supervisor. It doesn't matter where you go. The concept is the same. You still got to work hard. It's not going to just be handed to you.
Sure.
And I wouldn't want somebody to have it handed to them, because then are you going to really embrace it? Are you going to actually do your job if you never really had to work for it? I think that's a big thing. What you get out of something that you actually work for, you appreciate a lot more.
Good. So I think he has provided great insights, and I think if someone want to contact him, because we are trying to just build a resource so you can contact these community leaders and just get some insight to move forward with your leadership options you have.
Yeah, and just because again I represent the youth in our community, and I always have been having that relatively open channel with our youth. If anybody ever has any questions, anybody wants to even think about running, or even wants to get on a board or commission or something that interests them and wants to know how to do it, I am more than welcome to. Anytime you can call me, email me, find me on social media, and I would be happy to share my way of doing it, or at least, and I don't have it all figured out either, but at least I kind of have an idea of what roadblocks you may face.
So my last personal question. So I think our community, and also I think other communities, you have, I think, sometimes hard time to bring people together because they have their own personal issue going
personal
on
agendas.
And stuff.
Yeah.
So So can you provide a tip? To
Wow.
Yeah. So at least I think based on your experience, how you can bring people together in the community.
Yeah, so I think first it starts with you as a person. You know, if you're going to be biased towards a group and another, and then that's what you're going to get back. You have to be very open-minded. When you are in a certain type of position, you cannot pick one side or the other. You just provide the facts and stick with that. And then also have, you know, your work speak for you. If you're doing a good job, the public will embrace that and come with you. In our community, that's the toughest part, because everybody's kind of has their subgroups, and this guy doesn't like that guy, and they don't want to talk. But you could be that person in the middle that they can all come together for, because as long as they believe in you, it doesn't matter if they don't like each other. They don't have to like each other. They just have to like that what you're doing is great for everyone. And that's where, you know, I've always tried to do that, where I meet people every day from different aspects, and you have a sense of confidentiality. You don't share stuff that you hear from this side to the other. But at the same time, I think honesty is the best thing. A lot of times, don't be that politician where you just kind of tell them just to make them feel better and never do anything. And just tell them the truth. If you can do it, or if you know how to get it done, then share that with them. If it can't happen, just tell them, and they might not be happy with you because they felt like, you know, they voted for you and you need to do their work. If you didn't do their work, now they felt like they wasted their vote, right, on you. I've heard that before. But you know, that just tell them. They might be mad at you for a little bit, but you hope at the end of the day they will respect you because you at least gave them what you honestly felt.
That's good. I think it's really important, because especially you will, I think, come across in any community, I think, issues like that to bring together. Either there are like two different organizations, groups which have like difference of opinion, and one group is trying to put you in one frame and just trying to show you are the supporter of other groups. So I think you have provided great advice, and we need to implement that. And I think you see people come together, at least at, I think, some platform.
Well, you're seeing that now, I think, because we're getting involved. You know, you have Simran and Tracy, you have Sunny and Lathrop, you have Manny and Modesto, and Manny's running for a position that's on a state level, and we've all worked hard together to bring all of those opposing forces together in unison to work for one person to make sure that they can get somewhere. You know, put your personal agendas aside, and just, you know, if we do have somebody in our community that wants to move up, don't try to relegate them back down because you didn't get the opportunity. Be happy that that's somebody that could represent you one day out there. And you know, the biggest thing that I bring, like even to this community, is the just like my parents, is the English barriers that were there on the language side. And now, you know, the community feels that, hey, one of our guys there, and we can actually have a conversation.
That's good. So again, thanks for your time, and you have provided great insights. I think we were not able to cover other topics I'd like to cover, but maybe in the next
Maybe we'll have to come on next
because
time.
I think Manteca is so much things going on in Manteca. I think we can have like at least couple of videos on that. So thanks for watching these videos, and see the next community leader and the advice which you can get. And I think any suggestions you have, you can let us know through this channel. And thanks again watching for this video.